Hey, let's go 360. I'm here with Ben Lee, and today we're going to be looking at his Lamborghini Aventador. I'll just let him explain it.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. So this is a Lamborghini Aventador LP700-4. The 700 designates the horsepower. The -4 designates the four all-wheel drive system on it. So this from the factory came with 700 horsepower from their V12 engine. This V12 was the first V12 engine that was actually redesigned with Audi's help. For the past 60 years, their first 6 V12 Lamborghinis had the famous V12 motors designed by Bizzarrini. This is the first motor that was actually designed in collaboration with Audi. And that really surprises me because it's only been in the Lamborghini Aventador for the past 10 years.
Okay.
There aren't many companies that would invest so much in R&D for a motor that's only going to be in their vehicles for 10 years.
Gotcha. You asked me about that.
This model here, only 922 were delivered, and the goal for Lamborghini was to make 10,000 or more over the course of Lamborghini's Aventador's life cycle. So they actually made 10,000 Aventadors between 2012 and 2020, except for the special edition Lamborghinis.
Okay.
But there are even less Ultimates and even far less special editions like Centenarios. But the limited edition Lamborghinis, like the Countaches, that have a hybrid powertrain, are actually built on the Aventador platform as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all of the V12 Lamborghinis that are marketed now are built on the Aventador platform.
No, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Growing up as just a car enthusiast, I mean, the Aventador with the V12 was always just like the car.
Same here. I grew up, though, with a picture of a Countach.
Oh, it's kind of like who didn't. That car is amazing.
Yes. So I, through circumstance, got to the point where I could get a Lamborghini, and I had the option to get a Huracan or even a Gallardo, but I wanted a vehicle Lamborghini doors. So I actually started searching the internet about 8 months ago and stumbled onto this car, and I found a vast selection of vehicles at Charlotte McLaren in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this vehicle had just been traded in by an owner, and it only had 16,000 miles on it. And it was one of the lowest mileage, best condition Aventadors I've seen in the past year.
Man, it's not even broken in yet.
Naturally, I broke it in, because as a car guy, I said this car needs to be driven. So I drove it from Charlotte, North Carolina, and put about 600 miles on it.
How's the ride in it?
So it has 3 modes: a sport, a street, and a track mode. In street mode, the car is rather pedestrian, and since it's so large, it's comfortable.
Is there a way we can go inside?
Yeah, go ahead.
Some of the
Yeah.
Could you run through some of the stuff? Is that right?
So this vehicle has all of the options from the factory except for their Ultimate sound system.
Okay.
But this car has a hydraulic lift that raises the front 1.5 inches and lowers it. It has ad personam stitching on the Nero dashboard. Nero is the color Lamborghini uses to describe black.
Okay.
This vehicle also came with a couple of nice options, like the transparent engine bay. There's a nice grille kit that surrounds the rear exhaust. And he actually added an aftermarket optics package, which includes a black Lamborghini logo and exhaust tips. And he also took the time to darken the markers. So this car, out of the gate, had all of the options I wanted in a Lamborghini, plus all of the things that I probably would have done, too. Being a car guy, the first thing I normally do is install a cold air intake or an aftermarket exhaust, especially if the vehicle is naturally aspirated. But this car is one that doesn't need to be modified, because out of the bat, it has,
So we could kind of start it up.
It has multiple exhaust modes. So actually starting the car in itself is a ceremony. Push the brake, and then you push the start button, and eventually you get your opening ceremony. And if you keep your finger on the start button, starts, and then it has a street, a sport, and a track mode.
Okay.
Now, once the car starts, it immediately begins heating up the catalytic converters. But if you push the mode to sport, it actually opens up the actuators, and so you'll hear a nice, like, metallic drum. Okay. And then Corsa keeps the actuators open. The only difference between Sport and Corsa, from what I understand, is that you can't go into automatic mode in Corsa. You have to shift with the paddle shifters. Otherwise, in Sport and Street, you have the option to let the car shift by itself.
Okay.
Or go into manual mode here and shift it with the paddle shifters.
That's really cool.
The valet at Charlotte McLaren had to explain to me that to get it into neutral, you have to push both paddle shifters back.
Okay.
And so if you are in traffic, it's recommended that you actually shift into neutral, because even though this vehicle has a robotized gearbox, it's kind of like a manual automatic gearbox. So it uses a traditional clutch, which means that if it's in gear, it's essentially like pushing a clutch pedal and riding it, right? And so over time, you produce a lot of wear and tear on the transmission. And the labor and cost to replace the transmission in this vehicle is about $16,000. And you can blow it out if you sit around and reverse too long.
Makes sense.
And you can hear the fans kick on because the engine is starting to heat up.
I'm going to go back there if I get some engine sounds. Is that cool? Okay. This is the Sport. That sounds good. It's a nice hum. Can I get you to rev it up? Is that cool? Actually, I will.
Yeah, we'll do it later because they gave me a hard time for revving it when I got here. No revving, even though it's a Lamborghini dealership.
Actually, this is fine. You can kind of get it. You understand it anyways by just the hum.
Yeah. This is also the first Lamborghini to use the inboard push rod suspension inspired by F1 racing. And so it's connected to a double wishbone suspension that's then connected to the chassis. So it provides very, very direct and immediate handling and response.
Awesome.
But it's got carbon ceramic brakes from the factory.
And what's your paint color?
So this is called Oroncio Argus. So it's orange with a tint of red.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And as the engine starts to get too hot, these flaps actually open. And these open up and it draws air in.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, the wing deploys. It has two different angles depending on the vehicle's speed. So if I'm attempting to max it out at 217 miles per hour, the wing actually angles itself so I have more slip. But then if I'm just driving quickly around town below 200, the angle is more aggressive to provide downforce. But a Lamborghini actually offers an option to add a button to deploy the wing immediately, because there's no manual override, which is unusual because like even Audis have a button that lets the driver deploy the wing. But that's a $6,000 option and it goes here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think the wiring is already there. They just actually physically put the button in.
Your car is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love all the metallic plates.
Did you have any questions?
So what year is this one again?
This is a 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
So in 2016, the Aventador became the Aventador S, and the horsepower went up by 30.
Okay.
Yeah. But the main differences between the generations is that they came with start-stop technology and cylinder deactivation. And the transmission mapping was smoothed out so it isn't as abrupt. And also, they added four-wheel turning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
sort of like the Mitsubishi came out with that a long time ago, the twin turbo.
That's right, yeah.
The 3000, what was it, Mitsubishi 3000?
Mitsubishi 3000, I think a lot of SUVs have them now too.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, when you hit that sharp turn, having just that little bit of turn from the back wheels helps you keep.
Oh yeah, and even though this transmission is still a single clutch, even though most modern cars have dual clutch transmissions, it shifts within milliseconds, and it's purposefully abrupt. Lamborghini purposefully. They wanted the driver to experience the sensation of being thrown back in their seat after each gear shift, which is what I appreciate. But like most people have said, the easiest way for a smooth shift in manual mode is actually releasing the throttle before you look at the paddle and then slowly pressing it again. Because if you let it shift by itself, it's going to get you hard. Jerks you. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Like with the the SVJs being a little bit more. Do you know like what's the big difference as far as with the SVJs to
aerodynamics, interior and exterior options.
There's a big, so it's quite
it has 780 horsepower, but the biggest difference is that there are just less than 600. Yeah, that is what defines a supercar from a hypercar. The number available. Only 10,000 Aventadors made in 10 years, and that doesn't even account for the ones that are used for corporate cars or customer loaners. And there's no telling how many have been wrecked.
Oh yeah, for sure. And also like with your awesome orange, like that's even going to be even less numbers. They're going to have your cool orange paint.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't even figured out how many they made in orange.
Yeah, I mean, because you see a lot of yellows,
yeah.
You see some blues.
Yeah, maybe a green.
Your orange is, that's what I love. Like when you pulled in, I was like, man, that's beautiful. But I've seen a burnt orange. I've seen actually a couple kind of burnt, a little darker, but not like this color.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, like in the shade, it kind of reddish tinge. When it hits the sun, it kind of becomes more orange.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, Lamborghinis is always.
Oh yeah, it's the car. I could like die tomorrow and say I've hit all of my car goals.
Yeah, I mean the Aventador is like, I guess they're really not making them anymore.
No,
right?
After 2022. They're only making a hybridized V12.
Wow, so no more just...
Now, I'm sure it'll have more horsepower because it'll have engines coupled with motors, but it won't be as raw as just an old-fashioned V12.
Pure combustion.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this has no turbos, this has no superchargers. This is basically like how the Ferrari Enzo is, just pure power.
Right, pure power. Unadulterated, kind of raw power.
Yeah.
And it's got a nice torque curve too.
So what's the transmission?
So the transmission is I believe just the same Graziano unit that's found in Audis.
So probably like 7-speed?
Oh, so this has 7 gears.
Okay.
7 gears. Yeah. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. So it has a lot of parts from the Audi because I have an Audi R8.
Okay.
And this car has a lot of parts that are in the Audi. Because I took off the sun visors to install the dash cam.
Okay.
And I was like, these are the same, literally the same visors that are in the R8. And the map light panel from the R8.
But imagine if you would have had a Huracan, you basically have the same engine. You'd be like, man, I just got the exact same car for the most part.
Right.
But the R8s are sick though.
$50,000 more. Yeah.
I love it, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate, you